Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Racha, Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of 1 Kings, the 16th chapter. And, pretty much as we saw in the 15th chapter, it went through a few of the kings of Israel and Judah, and some of the battles that they had, right? We saw up until the point of Asa, right, king of Judah, who ended up seeking an alliance from the Syrians to help him against the Baasha of the northern kingdom. So we'll just get into it, right? This is 1 Kings chapter 16, verse 1. Then the word of the Lord Yahweh came to Jehu, the son of Hanani, against Baasha, saying, For as much as I exalted thee out of the dust, and made thee prince over my people Israel, and thou hast walked in the way of Jeroboam, or Jeroboam, and hast made my people Israel to sin, to provoke me to anger with their sins. Now keep in mind, first thing is, this Jehu is not the same Jehu who ends up, becoming king, right, after he slays, I forget who it was exactly that he slew, maybe Amaziah or so, but anyway, it's not the same Jehu, right? This is a prophet over here. And remember that Baasha was not from the line of Jeroboam, right? Baasha was an Issacharite who ended up basically conspiring against the son of Jeroboam, who was king at the time, and then slew him and started to reign. So that's why the Lord mentions exalting him out of the dust, right, and making him a prince over Israel, a king at this point. But he went in the ways of Jeroboam, right? He continued in the ways of wickedness and idolatry, in the things that provoked the Lord to anger. Verse 3, behold, so this is the word, the Lord's message that came upon Jehu to speak against Baasha. Behold, I will take away the posterity of Baasha, posterity meaning like your descendants or your line, your lineage of Baasha, and the posterity of his house, and will make thy house like the house of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat. And what did the Lord say concerning Jeroboam? That he wouldn't have one basically to continue sitting on the throne, like he would cut off all that piss against the wall, so to speak, which are basically all the males. And why? Because they are the ones who carry on the lineage. Verse 4, him that dieth of Baasha in the city shall the dogs eat, and him, so he wouldn't get a proper burial. And him that dieth of his in the fields shall the fowls of the air eat. Now the rest of the acts of Baasha and what he did, and his might, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Israel? So Baasha slept with his fathers and was buried in Tirzah, and Elah his son reigned in his stead. And also by the hand of the prophet Jehu, the son of Hanani, came the word of the Lord Yahweh against Baasha, and against his house, even for all the evil that he did in the sight of the Lord Yahweh, in provoking him to anger with the work of his hands, right? The idolatry, which is a very big, major offense, and being like the house of Jeroboam, and because he killed him. Yeah, because remember, like we mentioned before, so Baasha didn't go in the ways of the Lord, but he also conspired against Elah, right? In the 26th year of Asa, king of Judah, because remember, Asa ruled for about 41 years, as we read in the previous chapter. So during the reign of Asa, king of Judah, began Elah, the son of Baasha, to reign over. Oh, Salakia, I misspoke earlier. So Baasha didn't slay Elah, but rather the son of Jeroboam, because Elah was the son of Baasha. In the 26th year of Asa, king of Judah, began Elah, the son of Baasha, to reign over Israel in Tirzah 2 years. So Tirzah seems to have been one of like the main areas where the kings of the northern kingdom were, you know, sort of accustomed to dwell or reign from. All right. So he reigned for 2 years, and his servant Zimri, captain of half his chariots, conspired against him. And he was in Tirzah, drinking himself drunk in the house of Arza, steward of his house in Tirzah. So basically, you can, for those who've watched like Game of Thrones and those kinds of shows, you can visualize, right, what this sort of looks like, right? Court intrigue, drama, conspiracy. Everybody's trying to basically get one up, right? So it's hard to trust people, all this extra stuff. But you can see a lot of that was going on here as well. So as Elah was drinking himself drunk, Zimri conspired against him, right? Verse 10. And Zimri went in and smote him and killed him in the 27th year of Asa, king of Judah, and reigned in his stead. And it came to pass, when he began to reign, as soon as he sat on his throne, that he slew all the house of Baasha. He left him not one that pisseth against the wall. Once again, the pisseth against the wall, representing the males. Neither of his kinfolks nor of his friends. So of his descendants, Zimri slew. His relatives, Zimri slew. His close friends, Zimri slew. Which Jehu prophesied, right? Thus did Zimri destroy all the house of Baasha, according to the word of the Lord Yahweh, which he spake against Baasha by Jehu the prophet. For all the sins of Baasha and the sins of Elah his son, by which they sinned, and by which they made Israel to sin, in provoking the Lord Yahweh, God of Israel, to anger with their vanities. Now the rest of the acts of Elah and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Israel? In the 27th year of Asa, king of Judah, did Zimri reign 7 days in Tirzah. So after Zimri slew Elah and the posterity of Baasha, he ends up reigning for 7 days. And the people were encamped against Gibbethon, which belonged to the Philistines. Because remember, in these times, we're still at war with the Philistines. So, you have like siege, like we lay siege to them, and, so on and so forth. And the people that were encamped heard say, Zimri hath conspired. Because remember, Zimri was the captain of the chariots, and hath also slain the king. Wherefore all Israel made Omri, the captain of the host, king over Israel that day in the camp. So there was a divide here, right? When they heard that Elah was dead because Zimri conspired against him and killed him, they said, oh, well, in that case, we don't want Zimri to reign over us. We'd rather just have Omri, which is the captain of the host here, right? Reign. So that's what they ended up doing, right? And Omri went up from Gibbethon, and all Israel with him, and they besieged Tirzah, and that was where Zimri was. And it came to pass, when Zimri saw that the city was taken, and that he went into the palace, of the king's house, and burnt the king's house over him with fire, and died. So you see there, right, that at Tirzah is where you had the palace, mainly where the the kings of the northern kingdom dwelt. So in any case here, Zimri takes himself out by burning, the house down with himself in it, and now you have Omri, which is now king, or is about to be. For his sins which he sinned in doing evil in the sight of the Lord, in walking in the way of Jeroboam, and in his sin which he did to make Israel to sin. Once again, going back to idolatry. And so you can see that there are a lot of different, especially in the Northern Kingdom, right? A lot of different individuals that came up into power, and the bulk of them, continued in the way of idolatry. Now the rest of the acts of Zimri and his treason which he wrought, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Israel? Then were the people of Israel divided into two parts. Half of the people followed Tibni, the son of Ginath, to make him king, and half followed Omri. So now there's this like civil divide, because now Elah was taken out. Zimri basically took himself out, and now there's this divide. Some are saying we want Omri to be king, some are saying we want Tibni to be king. And so there you can imagine the two sides going at it with each other. Verse 22, but the people that followed Omri prevailed against the people that followed Tibni, the son of Ginath. So Tibni died, and Omri reigned. In the 31st year of Asa, once again, this is all happening in Israel while Asa is reigning over in Judah. So in the 31st year of Asa, king of Judah, began Omri to reign over Israel 12 years. 6 years reigned he in Tirzah. So they must have rebuilt it after it being burned down. Or probably built a palace elsewhere in Tirzah. And he bought the hill Samaria of Shimmer for 2 talents of silver, and built on the hill, and called the name of the city which he built after the name of Shimmer, owner of the hill, Samaria. But Omri wrought evil in the eyes of the Lord Yahweh, and did worse than all that were before him. So Omri comes up into power and follows suit. For he walked in the way of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, and in his sin, wherewith he made Israel to sin, to provoke the Lord Yahweh, God of Israel, to anger with their vanities. So you can imagine yet another king, right? Another individual who becomes king. And you can see that these kings, they weren't like the reign, the rulership of the Northern Kingdom was not a direct monarchy, so to speak, right? In the sense here, though, of like, well, let me say it wasn't a dynasty. Let me say that, right? Because it wasn't just like I reigned and my son, then my son, then my son. There was a lot of usurping going on here, a lot of conspiracies going on here, and so on and so forth. So you can sort of start to see why eventually this leads into the Lord bringing judgment upon Israel, and then eventually upon Judah as well. Verse 27, now the rest of the acts of Omri which he did, and his might that he shewed, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Israel? So Omri slept with his fathers, and was buried in Samaria, and Ahab his son reigned in his stead. And in 30, now Omri, that name or dynasty, or however you want to call it, it's actually recorded historically, and we'll come back to that when we get a bit further into the book of Kings. But there's secular proof as well of these biblical figures here. Verse 29, and in the 38th year of Asa, king of Judah, began Ahab the son of Omri to reign over Israel. So throughout the reign of Asa, we've seen Baasha, Elah, I believe it was Zimri, and then between Omri and Tibni, pretty much had Omri that reigned next, and now up to Ahab. Verse 29, and in the 38th year of Asa, king of Judah, began Ahab the son of Omri to reign over Israel. And Ahab the son of Omri reigned over Israel in Samaria 22 years. So now, because remember, I think it was Omri that set up and built Samaria. He bought it and then, started to build upon there. So that's why, I guess that's where they moved from Tirzah now to Samaria here. And Ahab the son of Omri did evil in the sight of the Lord Yahweh above all that were before him. And it came to pass, as if it had been a light thing for him to walk in the sins of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, that he took to wife Jezebel, the daughter of Ethbaal, king of the Zidonians, and went and served Baal and worshipped him. And this is the exact very reason why the Lord did not want us intermingling with these other nations. Now, pretty much with Ahab, as it's saying here, it's like as if it wasn't bad enough, like as if it, the wickedness that Jeroboam did, that Ahab continued, wasn't bad enough. This guy took it a step further and said he's going to wife up the daughter of the Zidonian king and go and serve their god, right? In this case, Baal. So, verse 32, and he reared up, and by extension, this affects the rest of the northern kingdom, right? Because let's get a quick precept in the Apocrypha. I think it's ruler. And it mentions, right, as the way of the ruler is, or the judge. Let's see. Ecclesiasticus chapter 10, verse 2. As the judge of the people is himself, so are his officers. And what manner of man the ruler of the city is, such are all they that dwell therein. So what do you think that means in the case here where Ahab being a wicked individual and worshiping, being an idolater? How do you think that would affect the rest of the people living there? Same way it did during the time of Jeroboam. Because it's not like he would just go and worship him in secret. Look at what he did. Verse 32, and he reared up an altar for Baal in the house of Baal, which he had built in Samaria. So he built a temple for Baal, set up an altar in there. Do you think it was just him worshiping in there? Of course not. And Ahab made a grove, and Ahab did more to provoke the Lord Yahweh, God of Israel, to anger than all the kings of Israel that were before him. And that's why the Lord set him up specially, In his days did Hiel the Bethelite build Jericho. He laid the foundation thereof in Abiram his firstborn, and set up the gates thereof in his youngest son Segub, according to the word of the Lord Yahweh, which he spake by Joshua the son of Nun. Now it's worded here a little, tricky. So if we look here in like some of these other translations, they make it a bit clearer, right? So in the NKJV, for example, it says, in his days, Hiel of Bethel built Jericho. He laid its foundation with Abiram, his firstborn, and with his youngest son Segub, he set up its gates, according to the word of the Lord, which he had spoken through Joshua the son of Nun. If you want another translation here, we have, like, let me see, we can take a look at, the NLT and the NIV. It says here, it was during his reign that Hiel, a man of Bethel, rebuilt Jericho. When he laid its foundations, it cost him the life of his oldest son Abiram. And when he completed it and set up its gates, it cost him the life of his youngest son Segub. This all happened according to the message from the Lord concerning Jericho, spoken by Joshua the son of Nun. Now, what's interesting here is I want to do a cross-reference and see if we can find, here we go, Joshua 6:26. And it says here, and let's actually start at 25. And Joshua saved Rahab the harlot alive, right? Remember, and which through our series, we haven't gone into the book of Jericho yet, but we will in the future. But Pretty sure we should all be familiar with the book of Jericho, the book of Joshua. So we're basically in the conquest of taking over the land of Canaan, and Jericho being one of those cities that we took down. So at this point, right, it says, and Joshua saved Rahab the harlot alive, because Rahab the harlot ended up, when we sent spies into the land of Jericho, she ended up protecting them, and basically helping to save their lives. And so as a result, we basically gave her our word that we wouldn't destroy her when we took over the city. So as it mentions here, Joshua saved Rahab the harlot alive, and her father's household, and all that she had, and she dwelleth in Israel even unto this day, because she hid the messengers which Joshua sent to spy out Jericho. And Joshua adjourned them at that time, saying, Cursed be the man before the Lord Yahweh, that riseth up and buildeth this city Jericho. He shall lay the foundation thereof in his firstborn, and in his youngest son he shall set up the gates of it. Meaning at the cost of his firstborn and his youngest son. So this was basically a curse, which ended up being fulfilled at this point in time in 1 Kings 16, or it befell Hiel, who went and built Jericho, right? Because the curse that Joshua mentioned here in Joshua 6:26 came upon this individual Hiel, and that's why it mentions that it basically cost him his firstborn to set up the gates, and his youngest son, or his firstborn to lay the foundation, and his youngest son to set up the gates. So that brings us to the end of the book of 1 Kings, the 16th chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rachah Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.